Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today is the day. In this video, we will take an in-depth look at the gaming performance of the Acer Nitro V with the Intel Core i5-13420H and the RTX 4050. Spoiler alert, this is pretty much the best gaming laptop in this price segment, bar none. However, there is a little caveat regarding its performance which I will cover in this video, so watch out for that. But before we even get into all those, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. These videos take a lot of time and effort to make, so your support is invaluable to me. Also, consider joining our Telegram community, link is down in the description. Get engaged in tech discussions, get reviews from other people about different laptops, and also get alerted on the best tech deals the earliest. With that said guys, let's get right into it. Before we even get into the benchmarks, let's take a look at how the various power profiles of this laptop affects performance. For this, I have tested the in-game benchmark of Cyberpunk 2077 at maximum settings 1080p without DLSS to create a GPU bound scenario. And with balanced performance mode, we are able to achieve 60 FPS. Performance drops a decent bit with silent mode, but 47 FPS can still be playable considering the fans are much quieter and the temps are much lower. And that's because of the lower power limits to the GPU. The RTX 4050 is extremely efficient at lower power limits. We are able to achieve 47 FPS in Cyberpunk benchmark at max settings with the RTX 4050 pulling a maximum of just 50 watts. But on average, it was mostly 40 watts or lower, which is incredible. While in performance mode, I saw the 4050 actually hit a maximum of 88 watts for a second, but mostly it was in the 70 to 75 watt range. Now this was a GPU bound scenario. What if you are in a scenario where both your CPU and your GPU is getting hammered? Like here I ran Unigine Heaven and Cinebench R23 multi-core benchmarks simultaneously. Then we see that in performance mode, the Nitro V is able to hit a maximum total power budget of 120 watts shared between the CPU and the GPU, which is quite impressive considering the power adapter itself is just 135 watts. However, here lies the problem. And probably most reviewers reviewing this laptop might have missed it because this problem won't crop up in your regular benchmarking session. I found this issue when benchmarking extremely CPU bound games or CPU bound scenarios, especially in games like Hogwarts Legacy, The Last of Us, and even in Horizon Zero Dawn at 1080p with DLSS enabled. So if you've seen my previous video where I covered the CPU performance of the Intel Core i5-13420H in the Nitro V, then you would remember that I told something where we observed that the Intel Core i5-13420H when in a long-term CPU heavy benchmark like Cinebench R23 10-minute Cinebench loop, we saw that after the initial boost period is over, the CPU settles down to a lower power limit of around 55 watts or so. Well, something exactly similar to this is happening when you are playing extremely CPU bound or CPU demanding game, and it is drastically affecting performance negatively. Check this out. This is Hogwarts Legacy. We are playing at 1080p medium settings with DLSS set to quality mode. Now keep an eye on the CPU power and clock speeds as I go up and down the streets of Hogsmeade. Our CPU is heavily loaded and we are completely CPU bound at this resolution with DLSS set to quality. We are averaging close to 70 FPS with our CPU package power at around 40 to 45 watts. So after 90 seconds or so, our boost period is over, and now notice our CPU has settled down to 30 watts and our FPS is now drastically dropped into the mid 40s, which is crazy. This is happening because the package power of 30 watts is just not enough to juice up those power hungry P cores, while your E cores are also being heavily used by the game engine. As a result, the CPU is not able to cope with the demands of the game, dropping the GPU usage even further, which ultimately lowers your frame rate even more. But thankfully, this problem is not that complicated to solve, and there exist two simple solutions to this problem. The first one is using throttle stop. We can lock the CPU power limits to something reasonable like 35 watt or 45 watt. In this case, I'm logging it to a maximum power of 50 watt because we saw that 50 watt was the maximum power consumption by the CPU when the CPU was in its boost period. And check this out. Now it will keep boosting pretty much indefinitely, and you are basically back to pretty much the best this laptop can achieve in this scenario. The second way is even more simple. Just go into your BIOS and disable the E cores. Now we are back at the same spot. Our boost period is active, but this time with the E cores disabled, we are actually getting even better performance because our P cores are at maximum clock speeds. The entire CPU power budget is now only powering the P cores, helping it to reach maximum clock speeds. But just like before, after some time, our CPU boost period is over and we again settle back down to 30 watts. However, since now we don't have the E cores to share power with, the system can use all of those 30 watts of power to juice up only the P cores, helping it to reach higher clocks compared to when the E cores were also active. And as you can see, before we were in the mid 40 FPS range compared to now when we are close to 60 FPS. However, you can take this one step further. Along with disabling the E cores, you can lock the power limits using throttle stop, and here with the E cores disabled, I am capping the CPU package power to just 35 watts, and that in my testing has given the best balance of performance, fan noise and thermals. So if you were using the Nitro V and you were facing this problem where you would notice that your FPS would suddenly drop down to a lower level and stay there, well, this was a solution. And this can also happen with other Intel, lower powered budget Intel 12 Gen and 13 Gen gaming laptops which have these P cores and E cores. So this was a solution. You are only going to notice this in extremely CPU bound scenarios or CPU bound games like Hogwarts Legacy and Last of Us, and even games like Horizon Zero Dawn at 1080p with DLSS quality. However, if you're playing extremely GPU bound games like, Plague Tale, Requiem, Control, or any other extremely GPU bound game where your CPU is not under much load, you will not notice this issue. Okay, so finally moving on to the thermals. And again, the thermals will greatly depend upon the type of game you are playing. If you are playing again extremely CPU bound, CPU heavy games like The Last of Us, then you're pretty much going to see those extremely high 95 to 100 degrees centigrade. It is just the way the games are. They are extremely CPU demanding. Along with that, it is hitting your GPU as well. Again, you can use throttle stop to lower the throttle temp from 100 degrees centigrade to 85 degrees centigrade, but that will result in some performance loss. With Intel removing the capability for the users to undervolt these CPUs, it is really sad and underwhelming because there is so much potential for optimization that the user can do. But it's really unfortunate that you cannot undervolt these CPUs. However, again, if you're playing mostly GPU bound games like the ones I mentioned earlier, then you don't have to worry about it because your CPUs won't be impacted as much and your temperatures are pretty much under control. So with all that out of the way, let's get right into the gaming performance benchmarks. Starting with good old Shadow of the Tomb Raider at the highest graphic preset at 1080p without RT and DLSS, the Nitro V with the 75W RTX 4050 is on par with the 140W RTX 3060 in the Legion 5. Next up is Red Dead Redemption 2 at ultra settings 1080p, and you can get a pretty good experience with this laptop, especially with DLSS enabled. Once again, 75W RTX 4050 is almost as fast as the 140W RTX 3060 in the Legion 5. In Cyberpunk 2077, the RTX 4050 will give you the ability to use frame generation, and in fact, it's the cheapest laptop to give you this feature. With frame generation enabled, you can get over 100 FPS in this game. However, I would like to remind people that frame generation doesn't improve the responsiveness of your game. If you are playing with the RTX 4050 and you are getting 100 FPS with frame generation, that is absolutely not the same as getting 100 real frames per second generated from something like, let's say, an RTX 3070 Ti. So you cannot compare the two FPS. One is a generated frames and other one is a real frame. Generated frames don't improve the responsiveness, it will only improve the smoothness. That is, visually you can see that your game is running smoother, it's looking more fluid, but it won't improve the responsiveness of your game. So it's just not magically giving you more FPS and improving the responsiveness of the game. That is not what it is. So I'd like to remind you that. And again, the 75 watt RTX 4050, which actually boosts up to 88 watt in this laptop, specifically in this game, is on par with the 140 watt RTX 3060 in the Legion 5. So those were the only 3 games that I actually had comparison data for, like comparing it against 3060 and 4060s. So you can see that the 75 watt RTX 4050 is pretty much on par with the 140 watt RTX 3060, at least at 1080p. At 1440p, the RTX 3060 140 watt will pull slightly ahead because of the greater, memory bandwidth and, just more CUDA cores and stuff. So for 1080p gaming, the RTX 4050, especially in this laptop at this price, is pretty good. Okay, so here are the rest of the benchmarks. I've also included some gameplay sections, so take a look and I'll catch you after that.
Got a 1010, possible narcotics sale. Backup needed in Bloomingdale.
to me, baby. We're gonna get out of this. I promise. Get back! There's too many of them! This way! Through the alley! Go!
My mother used to say I was lazy.
No! He won't let them take him alive.
Come in for pictures. Person's gonna love this. Got you now!
I should take a look at that map.
Look at that!
A castle.
Let's go see!
All right then, time to run. Hugo, you're gonna sweat like a hog.
I am sweating like a hog.
It's good for you. I like your new home.
It's a castle!
All right.
So that is it guys, the Acer Nitro V is pretty much the best performing gaming laptop in its price segment by far. The price is a little high right now, but it was readily available at around 72,000 rupees for a pretty long time. So wait for the prices to drop, because at 75,000 rupees or lower, it's pretty much a steal. Acer has absolutely nailed the price of this RTX 4050 laptop, because I don't think an RTX 4050 is worth at around 1 lakh rupees if all you're looking for is gaming performance. And I see absolutely no point in going for, more premium RTX 4050 laptops if all you're looking for is gaming performance. Because remember, RTX 4050 doesn't scale beyond 95 watt. In fact, at around 90 watts or so, it is pretty much saturated. So there is no point in paying a lot more money and going for advertised 140 watt RTX 4050s, because there's just no point in my opinion. In fact, there is barely any difference between a 75 watt RTX 4050 and a 140 watt RTX 4050. So keep that in mind guys. Alright guys, with that said, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn notifications. Like I said, these videos take a long time and a lot of effort to make, so your support is invaluable. Also, join our Telegram community, link in the description. Engage in tech discussions, get reviews from other people, and get alerted on the best tech deals the earliest. With that said guys, take care and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.